Yes, it's certainly a cold day to get inside the garage where it's nice and warm and do a little work. Alright guys, what we got here is a 2001 S10, a 4.3, and we are going to be putting a brand new rotor cap on it and a brand new rotor button. And we even get a little screws and everything with it. I picked this up on eBay. You go on eBay, you can just about get anything. So, long story short, we had to replace this particular engine with a used one because this is what it sounded like when this shorted out. Unbelievable. I had no idea these go bad like that. You can't look at them and say that they're bad, but they do go bad. But check this video over here out where it was actually making all kind of noise. So you hear all that popping sound backfiring back through the intake. Well, that's the reason why we had to replace that cap back there with a used one to get us by. But the new one's in. We're going to go ahead and stick this in here in a little bit. And I'm going to show you how to do it. But first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and verify that the engine is in the correct time. Meaning, we're going to pull out the #1 plug. We're going to trace it back to the cap and to the rotor back there, and we're going to see where it's pointing at before we put the cap and the rotor on. That way we'll verify this thing is in correct timing, and this will make the job 100% complete, and you'll be confident that you did the job right. Now, in order to get into the #1 plug, we've got to take this air cleaner off, get you a 10mm deep well socket. There's a little nut right there in the housing we got to take off, which is right here. And then we got to disconnect these two little wires and get you a screwdriver and disconnect your air cleaner, loosen it up. And the next thing you need to do is, which is really optional, I always pull this hose out of the way. You're going to lose a little antifreeze, not much, maybe a cupful. Unhook it, push it off the side. This will give us a direct connection here into this unit because it gets a little hard to take out because you have a clip on the front here you have to pull up on. And once you get it past the bolt right there, then it should lift up and come right out, and we'll set it off to the side. We'll go ahead and take our little plastic wing nut off of our plastic cover here for the throttle body, or the intake I should say. This just gives me a little more room to lean over here in a few minutes to get into that distributor. I just kind of push it off to the side, and like I said, there's the distributor. Pretty easy to get into. Now, what I need to do is go ahead and get a plug, a socket, and a ratchet, and we'll go ahead and take out this #1 plug. Now, the #1 plug on this engine is the very first one on the front of the driver's side. Okay, now as you can see, I got the plug wire off to the side. Now it's a little tight in here, and you got to have a little patience, and you may have to wrestle around with a couple of wiring harnesses. I will go and get a 5/8 spark plug wrench, spark plug socket, and I take the rubber out on the inside of these things because I always find when you put the plug back in and you're trying to pull this socket back off of the plug, here's what happens, and you can't get this back off. So I take the rubber out, and I'm just really careful. It just makes it easier to slide this socket off of the plug here as I try to get it back onto my little short extension. There we go. So here's what I'm going to do now. I got the wire off. I got my little short extension on there. I'll stick my hand down in here like this, and I'll kind of get the socket on the plug, and you can feel it pretty good with your hands. And once it's on there, you can kind of see the back of the extension there kind of sticking out right there, that little shiny thing. And now I'll just go ahead and take my ratchet, which is right here, and make sure it is locked in the disconnect position here. Let's see. Yep. And I'll stick it right about here. Let me see if my camera is focused in the right area. Let's see. One-man band here. I'll put the socket on the edge of the extension. There we go. And I'll just push down on it and go ahead and break this loose. And once it turns a couple of times, I just take the ratchet off of the extension and just take it out with my fingers. And I think you can see that, and there it comes out. And now we'll have excess into number 1 cylinder, and we can stick a small screwdriver or something in there to verify that the piston is all the way up in the number 1 position when we go to turn that cylinder. And you can see there is the plug that we just took out. And we'll look at it real quick, and it looks like it's in pretty good shape. A light brown coating is what you want to see. It means not much oil. It's not getting flooded, and it's burning at the right temperature. So we'll go ahead and stick this off to the side. And now we'll go ahead and pop the distributor cap off on the back so we can have access into the rotor so we can see which way it's pointing. The next thing we'll need is a little socket set here. We need a little star bit set, and this is a T20 that we'll need to go ahead and pop off the 2 bolts that are on the back of that rotor, the cap I should say, the distributor cap. There's one right down there, and there's one in the far back, and they're pretty easy to get to. I just basically lean over on the engine, put my hand down there, and put my finger on the side of the bolt so it doesn't drop. I don't drop it, and slowly untighten it until it comes free. But you will need a set of these guys here. It makes it a lot easier, and when you start to deal with the rotor cap, you will have to the button, I should say, the one that spins around inside the rotor cap, this will be a T15, so it's a slightly smaller bolt, but we'll discuss that here in a second. The first bolt we got to take out is right there on the side of the distributor cap. We'll go ahead and take that out. Alright, now I got that bolt completely loose. Now it will not come out of the side of the rotor cap. Sometimes you got to be careful. Those things will sometimes like to fall. Now I can put my hand in the back. This one's loose also. I should be able to pull it straight up because this one was really loose and I didn't want to drop it, so I'm just going to pull it out. And there it is, little T15. We'll put it off to the side over here, my little pile. And now the cap is ready to come off, but at this point I usually like to go ahead and hook the wires first. Just remember how they come off. This one here is pretty easy because it's in a sort of a harness here. Kind of hard to mess up. This side over here, all I'll do is unhook the coil wire from the distributor. I'll leave these other 3 wires on here and just put it off to the side, which it makes it pretty easy. So I'll have to set the camera down and take this off this way. I'll go ahead and pull this up slowly, because remember, I still got a nut on this side I don't want to lose, and you can see it right there. And I will pull it up out of the way, and I'll go ahead and take my nut out so I don't lose it. Sometimes, like I said, they come right out. Sometimes they don't. It really depends. But I'll set the camera down and grab that. Now I can simply just put the cap, distributor cap, off to the side. And now we have access into our rotor, and now we can verify where it's pointing once we get number 1 cylinder up all the way. And if you look closely on this particular distributor cap, rotor cap, if I can move the wires around, there is a number 6 right. Let's see if I can get the light. It's really hard to hold the camera and get the lighting just right sometimes. I apologize for that. There's a number 6 right there. That is where the rotor should be pointing at when the number 1 cylinder is all the way up in the top dead center position. Now at this point I have grabbed a big socket, and what I've done is I've put it on the alternator there, the big bolt, to help me turn the engine a little bit. And this is a 1, and let's see, this is actually a, boy, they make these numbers so small, sometimes you can't see them. Let me check it out here. This is a 1-inch socket. I will take it and put it on that nut right there on the alternator. It just helps me turn this engine a little bit because there's really not a lot of room in here to get your hands into these belts if you want to turn it that way. And if you're by yourself, it's impossible to do that. So I will put the socket on here, and I will turn it with one hand. And I have my little screwdriver on, and I should say, the cylinder. Now that cylinder, I have turned the socket, and I've got this screwdriver all the way up in the number 1 position right there. Now the issue here is I don't know if that's compression or exhaust. Now I know this is the compression because if I go up on top and once I get the screwdriver out of here, like I said, it's a little tight. If you look over here, the distributor right now, cap is pointing the opposite direction. It should be pointing over there on that number 6 that I showed you on the side of the cap, on the side of the distributor. So that's good. I know it's in time, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and turn the engine some more until this cylinder goes down and comes back up again. And once it comes all the way up, we'll check that rotor there again and see if it's pointing at number 6. And if it is, I know the engine is in time. Now, there is one other way you can do this. You can get a compression tester. Now, I have one, but it's pointless for me to use it because I cannot turn that engine over fast enough to verify if that cylinder is all the way up on the compression stroke. So I just went in here and turned it and verified on the rotor that it's in the right position. That's really all you can do unless you have somebody else that can help you as you turn that engine, and you can put your finger on there. If it blows your finger out, then you know you're on the compression stroke. But in a nutshell, this is how you can pretty much figure out if your 4.3 is in time. So we'll go ahead and turn this cylinder, crank it over. We'll turn the engine over by hand with my socket there. One more revolution, and we'll see where this rotor goes. Okay, now I've completely turned my engine out round, one revolution, and my screwdriver. And like I said, I apologize because it's really tight in here. You can see that screwdriver right there. I've held my hand on it, and it's all the way out. It is in the up position. I know that cylinder is up as far as it'll go. And as I look at my rotor button and that mark there, it is right on dead center where it should be. And I don't know if I can get the light just right. There we go. It is pointing at the number 6. So I'm happy. I know the engine is in time, and now I can go ahead and put my new distributor cap and rotor button on, knowing that the engine is in really good time. Now, sometimes if you do this and your rotor points in different directions, then you either got your timing chain has jumped, or your rotor, the bottom of the rotor there, the gear has either stripped or something has jumped time there. So you will have to probably stop at this point and verify and figure out what happened and fix it, because if you don't, it may run a while, then it may jump a tooth or jump time again, and you will be pretty much dead in the water. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and pull this distributor out and give you a look at it, and I'm going to show you how to set it back in. Okay, now in order to take this distributor out, there's a 10mm bolt right about there. Let's see if I can find it for you real quick. Right there. And it is tight. It is right there we got to take out. And typically a small 10mm wrench will do that. And we have a little wiring harness on the back. Don't forget it, because a lot of people forget about this wiring harness. They break it off. It is here. We just got to pop that off. Push it off to the side. And this distributor will be ready to come out. So let me take the bolt out. Now, out comes the bolt that holds in the rotor cap, distributor cap. You say rotor cap, I say distributor cap. You know how it is. And now we'll just simply pull up on it. Now, when you pull up on these caps, the whole distributor, notice how this rotor will turn back a little bit. So when you drop it back in, you got to position that rotor almost like that before you drop it back in. And when you do, you see it will spin back toward the number 1. That's the whole idea of getting this in time. And once you do that, you should be all right. And once you lock this down, you can't really turn this distributor cap around, and I'll show you why. I'll pull it out here real quick and give you a look at the bottom of it. There's a distributor taken out. As you can see, that bolt that holds this down, it is fixed. You cannot turn that. It is sort of a wrench type of a clamp. So when you put this in, you cannot turn that like that. Once it's in, and you are done. So all we have to do now is put this back in. If we put it back in and verify that rotor right there is pointing at that number 6, you, my friend, have just verified the timing in your 4.3. So let's go ahead and stick this back in. Now we'll go ahead and slowly drop this back in. As you can see, the rotor's pointing, the button there is pointing toward the 7 o'clock position. But as I drop it in, see it turning? And it is right back at the number 6. And if I shine the light, and if you look very carefully, you will see that the bottom of, and I will have to get the light just right, the bottom of the bolt there, where it goes into that housing, is right where it should be. And like I said, I apologize. It's very difficult to hold the camera and get angles just right there. And when you put your bolt back in, it will go right into the block, and everything will be done. Then all you have to do is tighten it down, put your cap back on, rotor, and all that, And don't forget to put this wire back there on the back of that cap on the distributor, this wiring harness, because if you don't put that back on, it won't start. And that, my friend, is how you basically time up your 4.6. So it's at number 1 there. I should say the number 1 position. The piston is all the way up on number 1, and number 6 right there on the side of that cap. The rotor cap is pointing right at it. And that's how you do it, my friends. So that's the end of this video. Go ahead and please watch part 2. We'll go ahead and put a new distributor cap and rotor button in there and finish it up. And don't forget to put your spark plug back in and your wire, because sometimes, yeah, I forget, and you might too also.